What's up, y'all? It looks like we're live. This one is kind of impromptu. I wasn't really planning on doing any kind of live streaming for the next couple of days, but I did want to do something because I'm encouraged and I just got off a great meeting with a potential client, and so I'm like, I figure I will maintain this same Zoom energy and take it to my live stream. I wanted to kind of lay out what I got going on. So shout out if you guys notice, we're changing the logo, changing the name a little bit. Shout out to my boy Les at Less is More Productions for helping out with the new logo. But I wanted to rebrand this. It's not exactly a total rebrand, but I just kind of let y'all know that I'm gonna be leaning hard into a new brand I want to get established that runs along the lines of Long Boxing While Black. It's called Blerding While Dad. And I feel like it encompasses a little bit more and it gives a little bit finer point on what I wanted to do with my website and with the podcast and things like that. Because the reality is there's plenty of blurred channels out there. You're going to find a lot, and they talk about pretty much the same group of topics, video gaming, wrestling, comic books, and things like that. I wanted to add a new wrinkle into it and talk about being a parent that's raising kids. So being a black parent who also is a black nerd who's raising kids who have some of the similar interests or whatnot, and really showing what that looks like. I have my entire career up until I went solo and got off the plantation was dealing with a lot of raising other people's kids. I worked in childcare, I managed shelters, I managed residential programs. I used to have to program to keep kids safe, and kids who had different mental issues, and some kids that didn't have anything, and figuring out how to manage that milieu without one hurting the other one, if that makes sense. And so I got a lot of different insights about managing kids. And so Blerding While Dad is kind of a mismatch of talking about comic books and typical nerd related stuff with black parenting. And so that's why it's Blerding While Dad. Probably going to start a gaming channel so y'all can log on and watch me play Overwatch badly for as long as the game is alive, I guess. I have some other stuff I wanted to discuss regarding that specifically, but getting a chance to watch me game badly. If there's any games out there that you want to see me suck at, shoot me some suggestions. And once I figure out this entire setting up this gaming thing, you can watch me play those games badly too. I enjoy playing video games. I'm just not too terribly good at it with some of the games. Now, if I can just play Tekken Tag, y'all can get these hands because the combo is Brian and Jen. I'll run anybody off the sticks on that one. But aside from that, I'm not great at Call of Duty. I've played it. I'm not great at Overwatch. That's the one I play the most. I'm not great at Warzone. That one actually scared me off because that one, the difficulty curve on that one is high. Anyway, it's the rebrand for Long Boxing While Black. We're kind of pivoting and leaning hard into Blerding While Dad. What does that mean? Well, Long Boxing While Black will always exist. That's the original. That is the originator. That's where all of this stuff comes from. But I did want to do something that speaks to black parenting, and so that's what the Blerding While Dad rebrand is about. We're going to get into a little bit more. Blerding While Dad is going to have a little bit more social conscience to it too. Talk about the social dynamics of being a black parent in a world that is really hostile to black children, and making sure that I'm not passing down or reiterating traumatic experiences on my kids instead of teaching them from the traumatic things that a black person goes through in this country. Not just reiterating it for them to experience it themselves, but teaching them from it and letting them learn on their own way. The toughest thing with being a black parent a lot of times is knowing the difference between being strict to keep your kids safe and just reiterating the trauma that you endured growing up. And so having those kind of conversations. There's one specific live stream I want to do that talks about specifically what Black masculinity is, and how it's been kind of used, how it's been kind of used by different people with our boys and our girls, and the relationships that they have with their mothers and fathers. And I want to have a conversation about that. I want to have a conversation on the role of schools for Black parents, because not all of us have the luxury or option. I'm not going to say luxury, because for some people it's not a luxury, it's another burden, but not a lot of us have the option of strictly doing the homeschool thing. Sometimes we don't have we have the tools, we have the resources, but mentally we don't have it. And so figuring out, the connection between being an involved Black parent with the school system. So there's a lot of different conversations that I want to have on this channel, but I also do want to talk wrestling and video games and stuff like that. So I wanted to do a channel where I can talk about everything without feel like I'm shortchanging what audience, and giving the audience a heads up at the front end, like, we're just talking about racism and wrestling in pro wrestling, and we're gonna have a conversation about that. So if you're not interested in either one of those topics, this may not be the one for you. Or we're talking about nurturing parenting styles, and how we protect our kids without putting them in a glass cage. So that's what the rebrand is. It's really leaning more into what I want the channel to represent and what I feel like my unique voice is. I feel like I'm at an intersection and crossroads of different topics. And so I wanted to kind of create something that is kind of a nucleus of that, and something that helps me manage my ADHD, because I am prone to switching topics pretty fast. And I need a channel that allows me to do that. Long Boxing While Black will always exist, like I said, but it wasn't the avenue to do it, to have some of these deeper conversations that are a little bit more personal to me. I could sit there and tell you why Wolverine sucks, or why the current iteration of Wolverine is a lot better than what he has been in the past. But to talk about picking up my son from school, the time when I had to pick him up and he's in a full-blown temper tantrum, and the teacher asked me if I asked me who's dealing with a mewling, screaming, out of control Black boy, Black child who is, I think he was probably about 5 or 6, and she's asking me, well, should I call the police? No. Having those kind of conversations, I'll tell you that story and stuff like that, but having those kind of conversations where, you are trying to protect your kids, but also protect yourself against a system that isn't really out to see Black parents succeed. So that's what it is. I would have loved to jump on here and give you like a straight up and down about exactly what everything is going to be and all this other stuff. I have so many different topics swirling in my head. I do think we did have an informal launch with Blerding While Dad a couple of weeks ago when we did the washed episode, and we talked about being washed and embracing it as adults, where you aren't really chasing the trends anymore. You just you're not set in your ways, but you know what you are. You've identified what you like. Yeah, Richard. Yeah. So the story's wild, bro. I'll break it down. ADHD's kicking it. I'll break it down. So should I call the police? What? Yeah. So basically, I'm showing your comment. Basically what happened was, picking up my kids from aftercare. And my son, I believe he had to be first grade or kindergarten. He might have been kindergarten. Anyway, he was mad at one of the teachers because he did something wrong. And they made popcorn balls, and he ended up misbehaving and lost access to his popcorn ball. And he was throwing a temper tantrum when I picked him up. And he didn't want to leave the facility, but I had somewhere to be, and it was cold outside and whatnot. And so basically, I had to carry him out to the car, And then I'm trying to get him to sit down and so I could put his seatbelt on, and he's kicking and thrashing and mad at me, all behind this popcorn ball. And so I'm out there, and his teacher, who I had literally just met, like I not literally, I didn't just meet her, but I literally just seen this woman at parent teacher conference, sat across from her. She looked me dead in my face. She knew exactly who I was. And if you've seen me and my son together, there's really no mistaking whose child this is. She's like, oh my, she's standing out there watching me with this boy who's having a temper tantrum, and she's not really helping the situation. But long story short, her response was, well, should I call the police? Why? Because my kid is having a temper tantrum and he doesn't want to put his seatbelt on so we can leave. I'm trying to calm him down because I'm not trying to actually physically fight with him. I'm trying to let him have his space, but at the same time, it was freezing cold outside and we needed to go. So I'm negotiating, I'm basically holding him in to keep him from jumping out of the car so I could put the seatbelt on and close the door. I finally since I had the child locks on, I just closed the door and let him, have his temper tantrum in the car. But like, she was trying to call the police. I don't know what the police would have done. I have no concept of why calling the police, how that helps me as a father, because I'm out there. If she has that blindness where she's acting like she doesn't even know who I am, that I'm his dad, and she sees him on a daily basis. So what, are the police going to come out there and see this black man out here with this kid in the car thrashing around? How does that help anybody? And so it's like, no. And basically I told her, I got this. Thank you for hovering, I guess. But I got this, and I don't need you. I don't need any police intervention or anything. I really don't understand why calling the police would help. And he heard her say, should I call the police? And he kind of toned down a little bit, like, wait, calling the police because I'm just mad. Why are we calling the police? So it was such a weird interaction, and it's such a weird till this day, I'm still puzzled by it, bro. Like, I don't understand why she would offer that, why that would be her response to a parent that's dealing with a kid in a temper tantrum. And I doubt that, if I'm blonde hair, blue eyes mom picking up my blonde hair, blue eyes daughter who's having the same temper tantrum, calling police wouldn't even be something that would register as a suggestion to help. It was a weird situation, but I realized, and it's not something, it wasn't new knowledge, but I realized how, people kind of view police as some kind of monitoring or control mechanism for Black people, and especially Black boys. Yeah, and her go-to for dealing with a child that wants to act out on this occasion. Yeah, I don't understand it, bro. And like I said, I don't see her doing it with any one of his classmates or his friends, And it's not like he's the only Black kid in there, but I don't see her doing it with any of the white kids that she had in her class. I just didn't see calling the police. I don't understand what that does, and I don't understand how that benefits me. I don't know how that benefits him. It takes a crisis situation and spins it into something. It takes an emotional crisis from a child and spins it into an actual crisis situation, where now I have to not only mitigate calm him, but now I have to potentially calm officers that are responding to a call. And I don't think people understand that, especially when we're talking about, how law enforcement rolls up and kind of perceives. And I'm not trying to get into this whole thing, but when they're called, they're in kind of a fight or flight. They're called to situations that are typically life and death. And, especially younger cops are ones that don't have that level of emotional control. Well, they'll approach a situation like everything is life or death. And it doesn't require that response. I don't understand what calling the police does. I'll be honest with you. And I'm trying to dig into the mind of somebody that, apparently thinks that calling police is is a response for a kid that's having a temper tantrum, who's not damaging any property or doing anything. He's just being a little butthole, and that's all it was. He was just being a jerk that day because he wasn't getting his way. And then he went home and, fed him and he went to sleep. He fell straight asleep. So it might have been he was tired. I don't know. But I know calling the cops would have escalated the situation. So, but those are the kind of conversations I want to have. And those are the kind of stories I want to be able to talk about on here. Talk about, the days of case management and whatnot, and seeing judges hand out sentences to Black kids because of the presumption that their parents can't afford therapy. It happens. And, some cases, in a lot of cases, it wasn't even malicious. It was just it was a malicious assumption, but the assumption wasn't based on maliciousness, if that makes sense. But, Black judges too, just the assumption that Black parents can't afford the therapy. So in order to get the kid access to therapy, they order court-ordered services when they're not needed, as opposed to resources to hook the kids up with therapy. Having those kind of conversations in this space is going to be what this is. And so it's going to be a weird mix. And so I'm going to figure out how to balance it out. But I do think I have a unique voice in this space. And then the Blerding While Dad Gaming channel, of course, you're going to come on and you get a chance to see me talk about Black shit while playing video games poorly. And I don't know how well that goes over on Twitch. I don't know how well that will go over on YouTube. We'll see what the audience is to hear me talk about racial issues while sucking at video games. But we'll see what happens with that one, bro. So anyway, that's what this channel is. And so I did want to jump on here with the live stream just to kind of let y'all know, hey, this is what we're in. This is what we're doing right now. I'm using StreamYard as the format right now. I may switch it up, and because I want to try a couple of other of the services, but StreamYard's been really cool for me, for my needs or whatnot. But we'll see what happens. We'll see where that plays and where that goes. Like I said, big shout out to Les for hooking up the new logos. You're going to be seeing the new shirts, and you're going to be seeing that everywhere. As we start getting things rolling, and I got to revamp the website. I got to decide if I'm going to keep it on keep it on a WordPress, or run it on a Squarespace. I mean, I'm happy with the WordPress, but it's a lot of work to maintain. The writing piece, I'm gonna get back to it, bro. Like I do want to get back to writing blog content, but I realize that that's a different kind of emotional drain and emotionally taxing thing, and so eventually I will get to all of this stuff. The idea is, I'm doing this because I feel like I want to get my voice out there. If it does turn into something where I can put down things and start allocating more time to it because it's kind of paying for itself in time and money, then that's what I'll do. And you'll start seeing more content regarding that. But as it stands right now, it's a matter of, I'm doing what I can. I'm going to be back at y'all with a live stream, probably, hopefully, I'm thinking maybe this weekend, because I got to have a big conversation. And Richard, I want you on this one too, bro. If you got a laptop or something, I would love for you to jump on this one. We have to have a serious conversation about what's happening in WWE right now, because it is an absolute disaster. It is a clown show. And yeah, I know there are people that, well, wrestling always is a clown show, but it's really bad right now. And there's some racial elements to what's going on too, on both sides of the fence. Whether you're AEW or WWE, there are some racial elements that we're seeing play out in front of us. And I do want to have the conversation about basically the crux of the whole conversation, crux of the whole discussion is going to be Vince gotta chill. I wrote an article saying Vince gotta chill over a year ago. I need to revisit this because he is the problem. and I want to break it down and have an honest conversation about what we're seeing play out in real time right now, where it's bad. So that's going to be the next live stream. We're going to be talking about wrestling, and then we'll probably have another one talking about black masculinity and how that impacts what it is, what it isn't. We'll talk about, we might even have a little bit of academic conversation regarding that. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I see a lot of these masculinity, man versus women narratives played out on social media poorly. And so I want to have a real conversation without it being set up in this adversarial, masculine versus feminine, men versus women, men were going to list all their complaints about black women. Black women are going to list, women are going to list all their complaints about black men, and it turns into this whole back and forth thing that doesn't really benefit anybody. So we're going to have that conversation too. And that'll be another live stream, and I'll probably take that live stream and convert it into something usable for a YouTube or something along those lines. So as we move forward, we're going to have lots of different conversations, and we'll start dragging people on who are members of the Facebook community, members of the Long Boxing While Black Facebook community. We will start dragging y'all into these conversations too, so we can hear some other narratives on it. Oh, the other one I wanted to do was talking about hip hop. The music arguments that happen revolving around hip hop are really interesting. But I do want to have kind of an objective discussion regarding, whether the democratization of being able to create the music has impacted the quality. And I think, the quality of an output of music has been across the board. More access hasn't made it exactly better. Having more talent shows on television shows where singers are competing for singing and record deals, the American Idol effect, it's made more disposable pop music. Pop music's always been kind of disposable, but it's made it even more. So I do want to have those conversations about has lowering the threshold to enter into the music market, has it really changed the output of music? I have some interesting ideas with that in regards to hip hop, and it's not about. I don't want to have the conversation about whether new or old or new school or old school. That's not the conversation I want to have. I want to talk about will it, with it being easier to get into the industry and easier to get in front of an audience, has that impacted the overall quality of the content that's being put out there? So I do want, those are the three live streams I got planned out. Vince Got to Chill with the WWE thing, talking about black masculinity and raising kids, and without having the man versus woman debate. I'm not getting into that one. And then the music, and whether the democratization of being able to create music and actually get into the industry has lowered the quality. And I'm using quality in quotes because quality is kind of a subjective thing, but not really. We'll see. That's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Again, the rebrand is Blerding While Dad. We'll see where this goes, bro. I'm really kind of interested and excited about what the new direction of my online channels is going to be. So I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.